Wow, look and listen. As our drought conditions may be getting worse, water's still rushing up in the high country. This is taken at Fraser Falls in the Plumas National Forest. Rob, that's the reason why people want to live around here.
Yeah, I mean, this is California at its finest, and
Hmm.
I know this is not a big water year, but it is a water year, and there is still snow to melt. The reservoirs are still coming up slightly, and we're kind of in a tough spot. But California always comes back. But we got to get through some dry times, and certainly what we've seen recently is very fast drying out of the local grasses down low. The other thing I want to remind everybody is that the snowpack, which is a huge part of our water supply, at least a third of our water comes from the melting snow, and it happens at a slow pace. Folks, look how much the snowpack has melted. With that said, if you are a fan of the local lakes or reservoirs, you like to recreate out at Folsom or Oroville, just know these are the raw numbers. This is what percentage full they are, and then when you compare it to a normal year, yes, they are down about half of where we should be for Folsom. Oroville, a little bit better for Shasta, but there are some bright spots. Where we are with this drought compared to the last drought, New Melones is in pretty good shape. Same thing with Don Pedro, and some other lakes and reservoirs for Southern California are not too bad. But for Northern California, we really did take this one on the chin as far as 2 dry years, really missing out on some major rain events. They were all to the north of us. There was one that came right through the middle, which is good for the Central Sierra, but for everybody else, it was a really rough year. As far as the wind today, that's really the big story because we have to get through a critically dry and windy day. As far as the humidity goes, this is about as good as it's going to be. Each hour from here on out into the afternoon, the air becomes drier. The winds continue to pick up, so we have to get through today, just like we did over the weekend. But wind speed compared to a couple days ago, it's a little better. Even yesterday, it's going to be a little bit better, but it's still at that level where any fire that starts is going to grow very quickly until we can get past the wind. The wind is the secret factor and the biggest factor for the daily fire threat, and we have to get through today and part of tomorrow before we start to feel better about everything. But the heat will remain. Early this morning, we've got lots of 50s and 60s down low, even for the foothills. And this is oddly warm. I mean, you don't even need a jacket. It's still looking at 60s just like yesterday. We should be waking up in the 50s and seeing highs in the 70s. That's a nice spring day. But what we're dealing with, folks, is windy conditions, fire conditions, and highs that are very reminiscent of what we see in June and July. The average high in July in places like Sacramento is about 95 degrees. And that's where we're going here within just a few days. So it's going to be a weird weather pattern, but one that we're kind of used to lately because we've seen early season heat and fire conditions. That's exactly what we have today and for the rest of this week. The good thing, though, is that once we start to move away from the wind tomorrow, we will be looking at least less of a fire risk, but still warm conditions, and I would say hot in the late afternoon all the way through the rest of this week.